US stocks managed to hold on to the gains they've made over the last week, making the rally over the last 5 trading days very impressive. And although for most of the trading session overnight, US shares were in the red, a last-minute rally took them into the green and added to that run of strength that we've seen in US trading and by extension around the globe. Hello, everyone. My name's Michael McCarthy. I'm the CEO at Moo Australia. And thank you for joining us today for the daily, Moo's daily look at what's happened overnight and what might happen in trading today. And in overnight action, we saw fairly modest gains across the European continent, with shares responding to positive signals that we'd seen from other share markets, because one of the reasons why we didn't see a lot of enthusiasm in early US trading was the macro data has started to turn. Yesterday, we saw manufacturing data out of China, which showed that manufacturing actually contracted for the previous month and that factory orders had slumped. And that concern about the growth outlook fed into the take that many investors and traders took on the GDP data released in the States overnight, with growth in the first quarter slumping by 0.3% compared to estimates of 0.3% growth. And these very concerning growth outlooks really weighed on industrial commodities. Both copper and oil hit hard in overnight trading, and clearly the industrial outlook deteriorating with this macro data. But alongside that US GDP data, we saw the deflationary PCE, the calculation that the Fed makes in stripping out the action of rising prices in calculating how growth in the US economy is going. And this is a very important number because the PCE is the Fed's preferred indicator of inflation. And that inflation indicator came in a lot lower than was expected. And an annual rate showed that inflation in the US is running at about 2.3%. Remembering that the Fed's target is 2%, a lot of people immediately put 2 and 2 together and got rate cuts or more rate cuts. And that anticipated support for the economy and by extension markets is probably the main reason why we saw such strength at the close in US markets. So we're not expecting that to flow through today, but another reason why we have seen such positive momentum over the last 5 trading days has been the US reporting season. We've seen so far 282 of the top 500 stocks in the US report. And overall, growth has been reasonable at above 3% for sales, and earnings have increased by more than 10%. And that sort of increase does help justify strength in US shares. But of course, for most of our customers and for most of us, the focus is on those magnificent 7 stocks. And so far, we've had 7 of the 7, we've had 4 reports so far. And as you can see from this chart, those magnificent 7 stocks that have reported have done very well. And the overall growth being delivered, both in terms of sales and in profitability, is supporting a positive outlook. Now, the exception to that was Tesla. Its production report was particularly poor and sales seemed to be very sluggish. But the news that Elon Musk would return his attention to Tesla has driven that strong rally. But you can see that it was in line with the performance of the other magnificent 7 stocks that have reported. Now, we've still got a few to come. Apple and Amazon both reporting tonight. And if they follow this trend, we could see strong support for them following their reports. But something to look out for in overnight trading in the US, Apple and Amazon reports. At this stage, futures are indicating falls across the region at the open. The Australian share market is expected to open down by around 25 points. And we will see some data out of Australia today, particularly trade data, and exports and imports will be very important also to the Australian outlook. But the focus for most investors and traders in our region today will be on the Bank of Japan. Now, it's due to make an interest rate decision this afternoon. And while there's no expectation there'll be a change to interest rates in Japan, the commentary from the Bank of Japan around a global outlook will be very important. It's one of the first central banks to speak after the imposition of tariffs on April the 2nd, and the impact that that has had is the key question for investors and traders around the world. So any light that the Bank of Japan can shed on that outlook could be market moving in trading today. But also today, please rejoin us. We have our election wrap up with the second last day of the election campaign. We've been looking at the impacts of potential policies from both of the major parties over the course of this campaign. Today in our webinar, not only will we wrap up all of those investment themes we've seen emerge from the political side of the Australian economy, but we'll also be looking at what reactions we might get to potential results this weekend. So join us at 1 o'clock East Coast time today for our look at the election and how it might impact the markets.